Hello, my name is Sudhir Joshi, and I'm heading customer success at LambdaTest. As part of my role, I work closely with enterprise customers, help them solve their testing challenges, and ensure that they get best out of LambdaTest.
Hello everyone, this is Mohit Juneja. I'm VP for Strategic Partnerships and Business Development here at LambdaTest. We work with multiple organizations such as Microsoft to co-build experiences for developers and enterprise customers so that they can build better quality software faster. And it's great to be part of Future Ready Application Summit where everybody is talking about digital transformation, right? And it's so fascinating to observe that while the pace at which new technology is coming to life has never been seen before, but still, customers are looking for more innovation. They want to achieve more with less. To understand how software application has evolved over the last 10 to 15 years, let's look at a quick video and go through some of the interesting learnings out there before we unpack how LambdaTest and HyperExecute can bring amazing innovation in your application development processes.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. Changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
I'm sure the message was out loud, super clear that software development is becoming a team sport, right? Let's look at some of the frames in the two scenarios, some of the pictures out there on what really was happening in the two scenarios and how it translates to something similar happening in software development, application development processes as well. For example, software delivery today, it has become a team sport. Just how you looked at the second scenario, more number of people, so well coordinated as if they were playing a game out there, right? Exactly that's what is happening in application development as well. Very specific niche roles, very specific processes around specific part of application development are coming together to really create a machine-like environment for new applications to get developed faster. Let's look deeply into some of the interesting things that are happening here in the two scenarios. First up, additional people are nothing but automated tasks. Continuous development, continuous integration, deployment, testing, all of these are becoming specialist tasks, specialist processes which have to come together, which have to really seamlessly work in coordination with each other to create a very seamless software development process. That's one. Second is incredible orchestration. That was really came out and stood out loud that without orchestration, without missing out on even one part of the process, right, the overall experience cannot be achieved. Without continuous deployment, continuous development and integration cannot deliver a faster release cycle. Similarly, without continuous testing, you cannot deliver the fastest software release cycle. That's the second message which really came out, and I can totally see that happening in application development as well. Last but not the least, look at that guy standing behind the car and just observing everybody on how they're working. And that's what is called as continuous monitoring. It helps in creating data-driven analytics, data-driven insights, which can further help developers, QA engineers to really take right decisions faster and accelerate the software release cycle. What is really happening here is that there are two messages which are out loud and clear for everybody. That shorter and frequent high quality release cycle will really differentiate the companies who are going to disrupt the market versus those who are going to stick to the technical debt that they have, just like the two different scenarios of pit stop that we saw here. And with that, I want to emphasize on software testing velocity, which has a significant impact on release cycle time. A continuous test execution and orchestration platform that fits into your existing software release toolchain and provides a reliable, secure, and scalable way to manage end-to-end test execution is the need for every business today. And with that, to further unpack how LambdaTest and HyperExecute can help you accelerate software release cycle and help you do more frequent release cycle, let me welcome Sudhir to share what's happening in test execution landscape and how LambdaTest and HyperExecute are all geared to take you ahead in that journey. Sudhir, over to you.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you for setting up the context. I guess one of the biggest challenge here with the continuous testing is there are a few top challenges that I want to highlight. One is slow test feedback. Now, with the infrastructure where the test cases are being executed, this infrastructure is not optimized to meet the pace of the development team, and you get the slow test feedback. Your pipelines are clogging because you've got adding more test cases with each commit and get the result, there's a delay in the results. The other challenge is the QA investigation. Now with each commit, you cannot trigger the pipeline. So you have to either bundle your commit and then release the regression suit, but then you don't know which commit broke the build. And that increases your triaging time to understand which commit broke the build. The next is, if you have suite of tests or you have a build which has multiple test cases, it's very important for you to know with which commit, what code is changing. You don't want to run entire pipeline because this wastes your resources, increase your execution. But that is how the legacy systems are working. Fourth is the biggest enemy of the automation is the flaky test cases. This shakes your confidence before you can release. You're not sure if it's your test script, if it's your environment, or it's your code, what resulted into test failure. And the last but not the least is infra cost. Managing this infrastructure in-house, it's a massive overhead for testing team because they should be focusing on writing the test cases, covering the features versus managing the issues around the infrastructure. To overcome these challenges, we built HyperExecute. HyperExecute is a test orchestration platform that supports all languages and frameworks. It's a plug and play with add-on of orchestration features, give you observability, as well as supports your end-to-end integration testing. Now, before we understand what is the advantages of HyperExecute, let's deep dive into what is the challenge with traditional solution. So if you're hosting a Selenium grid on the cloud, typically Selenium script talks to 4 components. That includes your CI/CD or the script, which connects with Hub, which takes care of all your request and response, and then spawn up machine in one of the data center. And then it loads a website against which you're writing the test cases. Now, with this limitation, it has to connect to 4 components using network. Any slowness or hiccup will either bring in test flakiness, test slowness, or test failure. Now, we looked at this problem statement and repackaged the solution with the HyperExecute approach, where we containerize the whole solution and built Azure-based machine where we host test cases, Selenium node, and the browser all in one machine. That gives our users up to 70% faster test execution speed in comparison to standard solutions. So let's talk about what is more in HyperExecute. First thing first, is a framework agnostic platform. You bring in any framework, be it Playwright, Selenium, Cypress, we support it all. The integration is 2 simple steps. Create a YAML file, install the CLI, and trigger the test case. Plus, this HyperExecute outperform your in-house setup using this orchestration features. Let's talk about auto test splitting. Auto test splitting takes care of distribution of your test cases in a way that your overall execution time will be reduced with each subsequent run. Auto retries mechanism help you handle flaky test cases or false positive when your test case failed for the first time. The third feature, which is auto reordering, think of this problem as if you have 100 test cases and they run for 2 hours. Assuming first 90 test cases runs fine and last 10 test cases fail, your testing team waited for entire 2 hours to get the feedback. With help of HyperExecute proprietary algorithm, we reorder tests in such way that flaky test cases are executed first, so you get the feedback faster. Additionally, HyperExecute gives you flexible deployment option. You can run the HyperExecute test cases on our shared cloud, or if you want to build a dedicated Azure private cloud, we can host HyperExecute there as well. And if you have Azure set up in-house, we can deploy HyperExecute services on your cloud as well. Let me give you a quick glimpse of the product. So before I talk about the UI, let me show you how easy it is to integrate with HyperExecute. There are 2-step integration process. One is creating this YAML file and executing the CLI along with the YAML. A YAML file is quite straightforward, where you provide the information on which environment you want to run your suite. Auto split that I spoke about will be going as a key value pair. Retry failure, pass it as true, and the number of times the retry has to be done. The concurrency is how many parallel test cases you want to run. As part of the pre-section, it will take care of all the dependency that has to be installed on the machine. This discovery is the process where we find the test cases that needs to be executed, and identified test cases will be executed using the runner command. Once you have the YAML file in place, all I need to do is call out the CLI file with my LambdaTest credentials and path to the HyperExecute file. This will now trigger the test case on HyperExecute. Now, this is what you see on the screen here is all my past builds. Once I click on a build, what you see on the left is all my test cases. The pre-steps shows you the dependencies that were executed as part of your build process. This is the real execution of the test case. Now, HyperExecute also helps you triage your issues faster. Imagine you're running a pipeline from Azure and your test case has failed. Typically, you will browse through thousands of lines of log to understand what went wrong. Here, we have categorized build log against each test ID. So you can know that what went wrong with your test if the build has failed. If you want to get more details about your test case, you can get the videos. You can watch the video of your live test case. You can track all the command logs generated from your test scripts. You can also trace the API calls from your browser, Selenium grid logs, and so on. Once you execute your test case, our analytics help you understand what is your test execution pattern. We give you a high-level view of what is your test summary, how many test cases you run, what is your pass percentage, what is the category where it failed. It also helps you understand what is your OS coverage and the browser coverage from your suite. If you run your builds hourly, daily, weekly, you can get that trend line here as well. Additionally, we give you what are those top errors that leads to your build failure, so teams can do something about it. Now, HyperExecute, it's not just about executing your test cases faster. HyperExecute is not limited to executing your build faster. It also helps you monitor your test cases. It helps you in monitoring flaky test management, culprit finding, and test impact analysis. With this view, you can see with each build, what is the pattern of the test script? Is it passing consistently? Are there any hiccups? Or are you skipping it? We also provide you test impact analysis, which means with a small code commit, you don't want to trigger the entire build. That wastes your resources and increase your build execution time. So that was HyperExecute. And with that, I'll pass it back to Mohit to tell you some success stories.
Thanks a lot, Sudhir, for such insightful narration of how HyperExecute is really transforming and giving a great alternative to existing test execution platforms and solutions out there. And we are super excited. We are super excited because enterprises across verticals are adopting HyperExecute. We have such promising impact on their build execution time and end-to-end test execution time that we see much more confidence from enterprises onto adopting our platform. Look at the exciting outcomes, the reason why they are actually adopting HyperExecute. Number one, up to 70% faster test execution time. And this is fantastic optimization across or as compared to any other test execution methodology that they would have adopted so far. Second, with the innovative architecture that we have brought together in HyperExecute, the number of hops have drastically reduced, thus creating a very, very reliable test execution environment with zero test flakiness. Again, a fantastic reason why many customers are really leaning on HyperExecute for all their testing requirements. Last but not the least, with a combination of fast test execution and data-driven insights about test triage, the overall test execution time for the enterprises is really, really becoming a differentiator for them. And we are excited to see how they are leaning on to HyperExecute and moving very, very fast, doing secure, scalable, and speed test execution on our platform. We have a great news for you. You can get started with HyperExecute today for free. Today, we have come with a great offer for all the Microsoft customers who are either using Playwright or Azure DevOps or GitHub for doing software testing. Playwright users, a big shout out to you. Go and run your Playwright tests on HyperExecute and experience the end-to-end fast test execution time right from your Playwright CLI up to the HyperExecute test execution cloud. Azure DevOps users, great CI/CD platform. Now HyperExecute works seamlessly with the toolchain that you are already using. Go check out how you can fire up tests on HyperExecute from your Azure CI/CD pipelines. And GitHub users, another interesting use case, you can now do bug tracking in just one single click from HyperExecute onto your code repos. So go out there, claim this free offer today, and experience what blazing fast test execution looks like. We are excited to work with all of you and being part of a faster, more frequent software release cycle with all of you as you move forward on your digital transformation journey. Thanks a lot for hearing us out today. We look forward to working with you all in future. Thank you.